So it's rolling?
Yeah, it's been rolling.
Oh, it's been rolling.
But I didn't clap yet.
Blooper!
You do need a blooper, so.
Alright, ready?
Just use that. Hello everyone, welcome to this week's episode of Relationship Foods. I am so excited as always to have my special guest for the week, and this week we have Sean and Sandra who are here to talk about their love story, their marriage, their family, and how food plays a role in all of it. And the relationship food that they are going to be eating is eggs and rice. And they have a whole story about why that's their relationship foods that I'll let them share, but eggs and rice is what it is. And so when I thought about how I could prepare eggs and rice for them, one of the first things I thought about was fried rice. And I thought, well, you know, we all know fried rice, but let me try something different. And so I'm actually gonna do a breakfast fried rice that you can have for breakfast, but you can also have it for lunch and dinner. But we're just gonna jump right in. I'm gonna show you why I call it a breakfast fried rice. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna start with the eggs. And fried rice has eggs in it, but we're gonna breakfastify them. Breakfastify them? Whatever you wanna call it. And so we have 2 eggs here, and I'm just gonna take some black pepper, and I'm just gonna put a few cracks in there. And this is just how you would make scrambled eggs if you're making, you know, if you were having eggs in toast or eggs in pancakes, and you were just eating it by itself. But in this case, we're gonna add it to fried rice. And so after I added that, I'm gonna add some cheese. And this is Colby Jack, but you can use any cheese that you want. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add some sriracha. And that's gonna help because when you have fried rice, sometimes when you sprinkle some sriracha on it, it's nice and it's nice to have that. And so I'm gonna add some to the eggs, not a lot, just a little. We're just trying to flavor it because with the sriracha, we're not trying to drown it in sriracha. And then I'm just gonna whisk that together. And when it comes to eggs, you wanna make sure that you whisk them really well because you wanna get when you whisk, you want to get the air into it, and that's what allows your eggs to be nice and fluffy. And sometimes people add a little water or milk if you want it to be a little more creamy, and sometimes I do the water, but the most important thing is you want to beat it so that it's well integrated, that there's no egg whites and egg yolks separated, but everything's integrated and you can get some nice air in it. So that's all set, and so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start cooking. And fried rice is one of those things that all happens in one pot, and that's the beauty of fried rice. It's one of those one-pot meals, and so you don't mess up a lot of dishes with it. And so I have my wok here, which I think a wok with fried rice, I don't even need to say why it's important, but that's how fried rice is traditionally cooked. So if you have a wok, I highly encourage you to use it. And if you don't have one, I highly encourage you to get one. But if you do not have a wok, can't get a wok, then a skillet will be just fine. But the butter is melted, and for this you want to use butter because butter adds a good flavor to the fried rice. You could use vegetable oil, canola oil, or even olive oil, but I think the butter adds a nice flavor to this fried rice. And so I'm just gonna add the egg, and the egg is the first thing that you cook because what we're gonna do is we're gonna saute this egg and scramble it rather, and then we're gonna break it up, and then I'm gonna put it in the bowl, and then we're gonna come back and add it at the end when we're ready to put everything all together. But it's the first thing you wanna cook before you do anything else. And so I'm gonna get this egg stirring around. And the important thing is you don't want to overcook the egg. And it's really easy when you're scrambling eggs. I know some people want to cook their eggs to death, and I understand that, but you do not want to overcook your eggs. You want your eggs to be nice and creamy. You want them to be cooked through. You don't want them to be runny for this fried rice, but you want them to still be soft, especially because we're gonna add them in at the end. We don't wanna overcook them. So I'm just gonna get these eggs scrambling. They're gonna take a minute, and then I'm gonna come right back and show you the next steps. So our eggs are basically scrambled. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put this down, and I'm gonna take one of these spoons, and I'm just gonna take them and put them in a bowl. And you can see it doesn't make a lot of eggs because it's fried rice. It's not, an egg with the side of rice. And so I'm not using a lot of eggs. But if you do want more eggs in this, I just did 2. You can feel free to do more eggs. It really is your liking. But for this, I thought 2 eggs works. And so I'm just gonna set this over here. We're gonna come back to it. But now we're ready to start sauteing the vegetables for the fried rice. And so I'm gonna take a little bit more butter, and you're gonna use the same pan that you fried the eggs in. You don't have to use a different pan, and that's the beauty of this. I mean, less pans used means less dishes, and it also means the quicker that you can eat if you're the type that likes to wash dishes before you eat. That's not really me. I just cook and worry about the dishes later. But it's To each their own. And so I'm gonna get the butter melting, and then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start adding our vegetables. And so what I have here is I have some garlic and ginger. And for the ginger, you don't want to use a lot because ginger is very strong. And so you don't even need, maybe just like a half a teaspoon. You don't need a lot. For the garlic, as I always say, you can do whatever garlic, however much garlic you want to do. I say more garlic the better, but you know, some people don't like a lot of garlic. But I did about 3 or 4 cloves for this. And so you want to get that sauteing around, and you don't want to burn your garlic. As I've said before, you don't want it to get bitter, but you just want to get the flavor into the pan before we add the next step. And the next step is our peppers. And so I have just some green bell peppers and some red bell peppers, but you can add orange, you can add yellow, whatever color floats your boat you can add. If you want it to be really colorful, you can use the yellow and the orange and the red. That would be a nice addition if you want to make it the colors pop. But for this, I'm just going to use what I had on hand, which was red and green. And so you want to get that sauteing. And you want to keep stirring it around because the wok, if you're not careful, a lot of the heat collects at the very bottom of it because of the shape of it. So you want to keep it stirring around so that the food that's at the bottom doesn't start to burn. You want to keep it moving. That's really important. And because I believe in seasoning every layer of your food, I'm going to add some black pepper, and I'm going to add a little bit of salt. Oh, and I almost forgot one of the most important things. I'm going to add the onion. The onion is important. Don't forget about that. You can't do fried rice without some onion. Onion, I think, makes everything better. I don't understand people who don't like onion. I don't trust people who don't like onion because onion is literally in everything that tastes good. So I say, I love the onions. I say it needs to be in everything that onions need to be in. So it needs to be in sauces. It needs to be in pastas. Onion is what you need. It's a great flavor. So I don't trust people who say that they don't like onion. So I'm gonna get this sauteing, and I'm gonna let this cook. You want it to get nice and soft before we start adding the rice. And so I'm gonna come back after this is sauteed and show you how we start the actual fried rice process. So our vegetables are sauteing. The garlic and the ginger are really fragrant. I wish you guys were here to smell it. And we're all ready to actually start frying the rice. And so one of the most important things that you have to do when you have fried rice is you have to cook the rice ahead of time. Because you want to use cold rice, you want to give the chance the rice to cool. And actually what you want to do is you want to put it in the refrigerator, but if you're pressed for time, you want to put it in the freezer. And what happens when you let the rice get cold is you allow the rice to firm up and you allow it to separate. Because we all know that when you cook rice, and you just have just finished cooking it and it's nice and warm, it kind of sticks together, it's nice and soft, which is great for a lot of dishes. But for fried rice, what you want to do is you want to give the rice the chance to firm up so that we can actually saute it and the flavor can get on each individual grain of rice. And so that's what I did. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the vegetables to one side of the wok, and I'm going to add more butter to the other side. And my wok is leaning here, so let me hold it lest it fall down. So I'm going to get the butter melted on this side. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the rice. And this is just regular jasmine rice, but you can use any rice that you like. You can use a short grain rice. In this case, jasmine is a long grain rice, but you can use whatever rice floats your boat, and whatever rice you have on hand, rather. And so what you're going to do is you're just going to toss it all together. And you want to get it, like I said, you want to keep it moving because you want all the rice to get the vegetables. You want all the rice to get some of the heat. You don't want to let the heat just concentrate on the rice at the bottom. You want the rice, all of the rice to get heat. And so you want to keep it stirring. And this is when you're frying the rice. It's more so toasting, but this is like basically when they say fried rice, that's what's happening here. You're allowing the rice to get toasted in a sense in the butter. And again, like I said, if you don't want to use butter, you're trying to be healthy, you can use a different oil. But butter adds a wonderful flavor. And so this is looking great. And so I'm going to start adding our seasonings. And this is where fried rice becomes fried rice. You have to add the right seasonings because no one wants bland fried rice. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some sesame oil. And you just want to feel this. I feel like for cooking, you just gotta feel it. And I know that's hard because when you're first cooking out, you're like, I don't know what to add, but that's how you learn how to cook. You just add a little bit, taste it, add a little bit more, and then soon you'll learn like, oh, I just need this much, and you can eyeball it. Because I feel like cooking should be kind of that free-flowing process. Obviously, there's some times where you have to measure. Like if you're baking something, you wanna make sure you have the right measurements. But for cooking, with something like this, sometimes you just gotta feel it. And so that's what I'm gonna do. And this is some rice wine vinegar. I'm gonna add a little bit of that. And I'm gonna toss it. You can hear it, it's starting to get, everything's starting to toast nicely. I wish you guys could smell it. The sesame oil, the rice wine vinegar, it's so fragrant. And so I'm gonna stir that, and then I'm gonna keep adding more seasoning. I'm gonna add some soy sauce. Soy sauce is very important in fried rice. And I'm using a low sodium soy sauce because soy sauce, regular soy sauce rather, has a really high sodium content. And if you're trying to cut back on the sodium, low sodium soy sauce is the way to go. And it doesn't change the flavor much. So I highly recommend low sodium soy sauce. And you can use a darker soy sauce. Sometimes I use a dark soy sauce, which is even darker than this if you can believe it. And in this case, I'm just gonna use a regular soy sauce. And I'm just gonna do a few dashes. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna come back and taste it. And if it needs more soy sauce, we can add more soy sauce. So this is looking good. It's starting to really look like fried rice already. And then I'm gonna add a little bit of green onion. I'm gonna garnish it with some green onion at the end to make it nice and pretty, but I'm gonna add some right now so that you can have some of the scallion flavor can be distributed throughout the fried rice in addition to on top. And so I'm just gonna stir that. Oh, this is looking great. This is looking perfect. Oh, I wish I could eat it right now, but I gotta finish it. It's not done yet. And so what we're gonna do to breakfast-fy it, that is a tongue twister I will never be able to get out. But what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna take the scrambled eggs that I had and I'm just gonna break it up with my spoon just to make sure it's nice and broken up. And I'm gonna add it. And I'm gonna toss that together. And you wanna make sure it's nice and integrated throughout. There's not like a clump of egg here and a clump of egg there. You wanna make sure that there's egg throughout every single bite. And then what we're gonna do now is I'm gonna turn down the heat so it doesn't cook too much while I do this, is I'm going to cut some turkey maple sausage. And all I did for this is I took some regular fully cooked, it was already fully cooked sausage, and I browned it in some oil. And then right when it was getting brown, I glazed it with some real maple syrup, not the Mrs. Butterworth's or the Aunt Jemima, but the real maple syrup. And I just brushed it. And you just wanna do that towards the end, and it just gives it a nice maple flavor. And that really helps with this dish because it adds some sweetness to it. And you really get that sweet saltiness that is just hard to beat. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this sausage, I'm just gonna chop it. And you wanna do it really thin because you wanna make sure that, oh, my relationship foods card fell down. I'm gonna make sure that it's not too thick because you wanna make sure that every bite has some sausage. And if you wanted to, you could use the type of breakfast sausage that you would crumble, but I think this really works. Having the links really allows you to have a nice texture in the fried rice. So you get those juicy bits of turkey sausage versus the crumbled bits of turkey sausage. So I think it adds something. And that's what helps make this a breakfast fried rice. It's the turkey sausage and the maple glaze that's on it. And so I'm just gonna toss this together. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna taste this, adjust our seasonings, and I'm gonna come back and show you how we plate it. So I tasted it and I added a little bit more soy sauce, a little bit more rice wine vinegar. And one thing I added that I forgot to tell you guys about earlier is I added some oyster sauce, which you can get at the Asian market or a regular store, but it adds a nice saltiness to it. I don't know why they call it oyster sauce. I'll have to figure that out and let you guys know. But it adds a good flavor. It adds a nice salty richness to the fried rice that is hard to beat with anything else. So I highly encourage that you add it. But it's all done. And so I'm just gonna show you how we plate it. So I'm just gonna take a bowl, and for this, you could do this on a plate as well, but I thought it would be cute to have it in a nice bowl. And I'm not gonna put too much in here, but I'm just gonna show you how we plate it. And then what you're gonna do is you're just gonna take some of the green onion rather, some of which we put in the actual fried rice, but I saved some for the garnish, like I said, and you're just gonna put that on top. And then you're gonna come back with your sriracha, which remember we added this to the eggs. And so we're gonna complement the sriracha and the egg by adding it on top. And what you're gonna do, and the thing I love about sriracha is it's perfect for garnishing because it has this little nozzle that allows you to really drizzle it on and make it look nice. And so I'm just gonna do a drizzle of sriracha. And that's gonna give a nice heat, and it's gonna really complement the sweetness of the maple, the saltiness of the soy sauce, but it's a really good finish, and so I highly encourage you to add it. And of course, if you don't like spicy food, you don't have to add it, but I highly recommend it. But that's it, that's breakfast fried rice, and I am so excited to talk to Sean and Sandra about why eggs and rice are their relationship food, and also to hear about their marriage, their love story, and how food plays a role in all of it. So I hope you'll stay tuned for the next part. Welcome back to Relationship Foods. I am so excited to have my special guests, Sean and Sandra, here with me today. Before we get started, as always, here at Relationship Foods, we believe that first bites are like first loves. You never forget them. So I want you guys to take a moment to relax, to close your eyes, to try the food, and let me know what comes to mind. Yes.
I might cry.
You gonna cry? We can get tissue on this side. And so this is a breakfast fried rice.
Okay.
And so it has maple turkey sausage, eggs. Tears?
Yeah, this is good.
Nice.
The tears might be from the sriracha, but this is good.
What is the first thing that comes to mind? Is there something that reminds you of?
Well, it's definitely like gives me like an Asian inspired taste, but then the breakfast sauce just comes in, you're like, home.
Yeah.
Good mix.
Like, I would eat this on vacation every day.
Really?
I mean, if I could eat this every day, I would.
I'm about to say, I don't think you would wait for vacation.
I would definitely eat this.
This is good.
Like, yeah, it's just like the flavor's there.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like I need to be sitting in the back of like a Mercedes with,
But
why? The small bowl of this, and a drink, some music playing,
yes,
and just no distractions.
Okay.
Just me, my drink, and my food.
What is it, caviar?
Maybach music.
Wow.
How about that?
Wow. I'll take that.
Meanwhile, I'll sit on my couch in my pajamas and eat it while I'm watching TV.
I like that one too. That one seems more chill. So the first thing I want to ask before we get into like your relationship to food, so how long have you two been married?
8 years.
8 years. And together?
11.
I'm almost 12.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Oh wow. How did you guys meet?
So it was a dark and stormy night.
Are we gonna lie or tell the truth? Because I need to know.
You could lie and I want to hear the truth. You could do both versions of it, but.
So I met her through a friend.
Okay.
Actually.
No name dropping, please. We can't. We have to have permission.
Right.
Yes,
So we met through a mutual friend.
Yes. Okay.
He was at the time seeing a young lady,
Mm-hmm.
and then Sandra just happened to be there,
Mm-hmm.
and then like she made eye contact, but it wasn't like sexy eye contact. It was more like why are you like in this house? And I'm like, bro, like why are you looking at me like that? Like you're not even allowed to be here. Like first off, I didn't even give you permission to be here. So
Wasn't your house.
but it's not the point. The point is, it was my boy's house, so by extension, it was my house. You know what I'm saying? So,
It was his territory.
right.
Really?
So that's pretty much how that happened. And then over the course of time, I started seeing her more and more. And then it was kind of like, all right, like her friend wanted to hook me up, and I was kind of like, come on.
I can't wait to hear your version of this.
I'm not interested. She's like, yeah, like, you should talk to her. So I pulled up, asked her for a number, and she was blushing, like sweating at all. So it's like, come on. And this was like, just for fun, I guess. But after a while, I guess a couple weeks, I want to say, we finally started talking, and then
She's like,
after that, it was a wrap. You know, she was just kind of like, take me now. And I was like, hold on, you know, let me meet your parents first. And then
here we go.
Yeah, here we are.
So,
2 kids later.
what's the truth? I would like to hear the truth.
Boy, he started off okay. It was after church. We
Okay.
were at a mutual friend's home. A good friend of mine, a good friend of his, they were trying to kind of match, matchmaking. And so they were sitting down, kind of interrogating her. I'm playing with the kids, I'm minding my business. And so when I got to where they were sitting, they asked me like what was my zodiac sign or something, random. And I was like, oh, I'm a Scorpio. And they're like, and he said something. So I was looking at him like, you know the typical stereotypes of certain, zodiac signs. I'm just kind of like, you don't know me. So that's probably the look he's talking about that I gave him, kind of sassed him a little bit. From there, I was always going, I was like the sidekick. I was like, I was the homie, so I would go with her whenever she would go, that was like the meetup spot. And so we would see each other off and on, here and there. And then a good friend of ours was kind of like, it was Sean, you don't ever call nobody, blah, blah, blah. And I already knew where it was going. So here I go. I get up and go to the kitchen. I said, well, I don't have nobody's number, blah, blah, blah. She's like, well, you should get the digits. So as I'm pretending to wash the dishes, he comes up behind me, real bold, and puts the phone in front of me. So he comes from behind me and puts the phone in front of me, and it says, can I have your number? Okay, you put your number in my phone.
That's
what happened.
The truth.
That's what
That's
happened.
the truth. Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, we talked for a while before we actually started dating.
Okay. So, what's the earliest food memory that you two have as a couple?
Oh, I would say, so she's Haitian. And the
Wait, no.
So I just want to, because the customs are different.
Yeah.
So I want to say the earliest I was introduced to like a lot of food or just food in general was like when I first went to her house and like she gave me lunch one time and it was like this whole spread. And again, like I was never used to a spread of food, but it was like a different bowl for like each different thing, and I'm like, I don't eat like this. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I'm like, I don't know what to do with this. Yeah. She was like, all right, well, like this is your sauce and this is your rice and your beef, and I'm like, I felt kind of. I don't know if the word was embarrassed, but I felt weird. I felt out of place. Yeah. Because naturally,
it's different. Yeah.
Right. Like you just put everything together. But, here I am getting served on a tray. Then it was just kind of like, all right. And she was like, this is like kind of what we do. So I'm like, all right, well, for future reference, like you don't have to treat me any different than, just like I can get up and get this myself. I'm not wasting all these dishes.
Yeah.
So it was, that was my first introduction to like just kind of seeing how on a food level, her culture operates.
Yeah.
But when it came to like my first experience with like something that she did. Yeah. All right. So there was 2 instances. Okay. There was one where, and again, it's crazy though because, again, it wasn't like we went out somewhere. Like it's literally like she was in her kitchen, and she just made like a pack of chicken oodles and noodles, right? But and I've eaten oodles and noodles for years. You know what I'm saying? So I know how it tastes. But she made this oodles and noodles, and I tasted, and I was like, yo, this thing tastes different. Like it's good. Like why is this thing like you have different packaging than I do? So I'm looking at the packaging. I'm like, well, everything is the same. She's like, oh, well, I added this thing called Eppies, and I'm like, what? Yeah. I'm like, what is an Eppies? You know what I'm saying? And she's like, oh, well, it's like our spice thing. I'm like, okay, well, this is. Well, you have to make this now all the time because this is the standard. Because prior to that, like I've always liked sandwiches, like turkey and cheese, like that's just my thing. You know what I'm saying? So, like when she did that, I was like, okay, cool, like you got it. But then, like fast forward, there was another time where I came to the house and I was like, yo, like what's up with these noodles? And she's like, well, we ain't got noodles. No. She said we don't have Eppies, and I'm like,
I don't remember this
I'm like, well, how do you not have this? I'm like, you've had it every other time before.
It wasn't Ippies.
Whatever the case was, she didn't have like the certain seasoning for the thing.
Right.
So I'm like, well, what are we supposed to do now? So then she goes, well, I got rice and I got eggs.
Yes.
And I'm sitting there like,
Yes.
well, I've had rice before and I've had eggs. I've had them together. But I'm like, well, I'm hungry.
Yeah.
Okay, do your thing. Like, you know, it was whatever. You know, at that point, I'm like,
yeah, just do whatever.
Now, in my mind, I'm thinking like Chinese food style, like this thing.
Yeah.
So, I'm going to give you a little context of how this thing played out. So, like,
We're gonna be doing a lot of editing.
when you watch anime, right?
Yes.
And they create like a bowl or like a really good dish. It glows. And sometimes when it glows, like it has like a certain like rhythm or song to it.
Yes.
So here she comes out with this plate of rice and eggs, and it's glowing. And there's like this sweet sound that's coming from it. And I'm sitting here like, what is this? What is this sweet music that I am hearing?
Oh Lord.
So she's like, well, it's not good. And she was like, please don't judge me. So I'm sitting here looking at this thing and I'm like, all right, well, it sounds good. And it definitely looks, you know, looks good. And I took a bite. And the bite was almost similar to being baptized, but on the inside of your body. Like there was a moment when you can actually have like an outer body experience.
Yes.
And like you see your ancestors and stuff like that.
Yes.
High-fiving
All of
people.
them. Yes.
And like literal tears came to my eyes. And I didn't really understand what was happening and why I was so emotional. I think it was at that point where I was just kind of like, well, I have to marry her now. But I didn't want to show her. I didn't want to show her that, like, you know, I didn't want to put all my cards on the table. But I was like, yo, like, I need to eat this
all the time,
every day from here on out. And that's kind of like how it started. So every time I go, like, I ain't want the noodles no more. Like,
that's what you
wanted.
wanted.
I need the rice and eggs. And then after a while, she got like, yo, you get into, you know, her hand was in the air now, you know. Because she's from Newark, so you know, it was always
all the people from Newark gonna come get you now.
Yes.
You know, so like, you know, so she had a little street to it. So it's kind of like, you got like too much cholesterol, or like you can't. And I'm like, yo, just make it. Don't worry about my body. Like I'm good. I'll get my yearly checkup. I just need the rice and eggs. So that's the reason why I've always appreciated the rice and eggs.
Rice and eggs.
And again, I've made it before, and it's always been trash, completely trash. And I had to sit down and eat every last bite of it, and I cried eating it because it was trash.
Because it wasn't the same.
It wasn't the same.
It wasn't the same.
But she just.
So that
Thank you so much for tuning in. That's all the time that we have for today.
So I was gonna ask, what is your earliest? Is that your earliest food memory, or do you have another one?
Just go with it.
First of all,
because that was a lot. I don't know.
like seriously, the first thing that came to my mind when you said that was sandwiches.
Really?
Because when we were dating, we were talking, he was like, that's all he wants to eat. He loves sandwiches. He was telling me about dreams he had about me making him a sandwich and sandwiches. Now, I do recall me serving him food at my mother. You know, we're both living at our parents' house at the time. I'm very much so Americanized, but my mother is not. Do I have something okay. And so when I went to give him the food, I'm not thinking about all these 5,000 trays. I know that's how they, normally serve. Like my parents would, my mother would serve my father, things like that. I've seen it my whole life. But for me, just throw the food on a plate. Let's go eat. My mother was in the kitchen. I know you're not about to serve him like that. Go get this. Go get that. Go get this.
Oh.
So it was my mother.
Okay.
Who decided to do this whole display.
Okay.
I know better to then give a habit that I had no intention of keeping. So when I brought it to him, he was just kind of like,
Like,
I'm supposed to
yeah.
do with all of this. And in my head, I'm like, I told my mom he wasn't gonna get it. And what did he do? Just dumped everything in the plate. But again, so I do recall that. Now, the rice and egg situation, yes, it was the day he came over. He used to work overnight. And so he would come in the morning, you know, to see me before he would go home. And I'm like, I really don't have anything for you today. Like, I got some leftover rice in the fridge. So I got some eggs. And he said, well, let me get some eggs with some rice. And I'm like, I was like, you want rice with the eggs? I was like, so you want me to fry some eggs? You want some rice?
Yeah.
He was like, no,
Just
mix it together.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, okay. Never did it before. So I'm like, all right, so how we gonna do this? I took what I had. I had some butter, I had some cheese. And I don't remember what else I put in it. Listen, you was like,
yeah.
But I know it had a lot of butter and cheese in there.
Yeah.
Did I put bacon in it the first time? Some turkey bacon?
No.
Whatever the case was. Mixed it up. I'm like, I don't know how this is gonna turn out.
Yeah.
But apparently music was playing. It was
all this
like angels singing hallelujah.
Listen, there was so much happening.
I'm glad he enjoyed it.
Yes.
But then it became like this constant request
Of rice and eggs.
of rice and eggs.
Okay.
How much butter and cheese am I gonna feed this man? And eggs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's how that started with the rice and eggs. So it's now a treat,
Okay.
you know,
Okay.
that I'll make. And
I'm
I know
healthy.
I can't have
But
any.
it's a treat. You know what I'm saying?
The rice and eggs.
We also eat mac and cheese and things like that. It's not like we don't we eat healthy and then boom, here comes rice and eggs. Like we don't healthy is
It's like a birthday thing, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like on occasion I'll
Okay. Okay, that's good to know. That was one of the questions I was gonna ask because I was like, I knew I was gonna make rice and eggs, but I didn't know the whole story
behind it. Yeah, so it was a happenstance. It just kind of happened.
Okay.
So this one is very different from
This is it has the eggs, it has the cheese in it, but it doesn't
Right, because it's typically
This is
just
more
white
Asian
rice.
It's more
inspired.
Asian
Yeah.
inspired. Yeah, it's more
Just
Asian
white
inspired.
rice.
But okay. So since you answered that question, I want to jump to this one. If you could describe each other as a food dish, what would you say and why? I'm gonna let you go first because I know you gonna have a whole thing. So I want Sandra to go first.
He might not.
But if you could describe Sean as a food dish, what would you describe it as and why?
Oh my. It would have to be a very complex dish.
Okay.
I'm not a chef, so I'm trying to find something in my brain of how I could possibly describe him as a dish.
Like complex in what way? Because I may have a suggestion.
Pho.
You
have the broth.
Okay.
Sean has he has a calmness about him. He's a thinker.
Yeah.
I love that about him. He's very intelligent, very much so a thinker. Then you have all the different pieces that you have to add to that broth to kind of create the whole thing.
Yeah.
And so Sean has many different pieces to him. And depending on the day, you might get a
different.
little beef, you might get a little shrimp, you might get a little pork. I don't eat those things, but thinking about how pho looks. The noodles, you know what I mean? So he is not just a typical, he's not a sandwich. Yeah. He is very much so a bowl of pho. That's like
a bowl of pho.
That's the best
that's a great answer.
Oh, well.
That's really good. So your answer has to stand up to that, because that was actually really
Actually, it wasn't.
You don't agree with that?
No. That's fine.
Yeah.
But my idea of a dish for Sandra, it's not really a dish.
What is it?
See, Sandra's like a survival pack. You know what I'm saying?
God, survival pack.
Survival pack.
Explain that, because I'm confused.
Okay. So like, the one thing that I very much appreciate about Sandra's her ability to create something out of nothing. I'm gonna take a little liberty here when I say this, but I can recall a time where there was like egg noodles, aluminum foil, Jello, and like 2 sticks of like butter. And Sandra was like, yo, we got like nothing in the house. And again, I don't know if we were struggling at that time or whatever, but that's what we had. That's what we had.
Yeah.
That's what we had. And maybe like some gum, like whole gum. Whatever the case was. She went into the kitchen and she was in there for like a good hour. And then like she came out and she was like, yo, let's eat. And what I had was so amazing. And I'm like, yo, you made this with aluminum?
You got people thinking we eating crazy.
No. And again, what I'm simply saying is like her ability to be like a, I don't want to say a poor man, but like
a poor man's dream. Go ahead, say it.
like she can just like take the most random things that you won't necessarily think of, and she turns it into something, and then it's like, make this again, and she's like, well, I can't. And then the other thing about it is like she doesn't taste her food, so when she tries to recreate these things and I'm tasting, I'm like, well, it's good, but it's not like how you did it the first time.
Yeah.
So like, Sandra's not like I said, she's just like,
you gotta make me a dish.
There's no dish. There's nothing.
You just gave a whole. I appreciate you, but we need to. So I'm
okay.
Just not me and what I do, but my personality.
Yes.
Oh, your personality.
Yes. Overthinker.
Okay.
But you mentioned.
So now I gotta go back. Sandra's a really good breakfast meal. She's like a full course dinner.
I love breakfast.
Yes.
Like IHOP, pancakes, eggs, because
I'm hearty.
exactly,
Okay.
like you get a little bit of everything that you want,
Okay.
and then like if you got a little left over, like you can like indulge even more. You know what I'm saying? Like I would say like she's probably like a really good vacation breakfast menu.
A really good vacation.
I'm a whole menu.
Breakfast menu.
Sorry,
Okay.
snack out there. I'm a menu.
A menu. Okay.
I would say that.
Okay. I like that. Survival pack, and then
A vacation breakfast menu.
and then a bowl of fun. I like those. Are all good answers. I appreciate all of those.